There are things man was not meant to know. But that doesn't mean that they don't know us. When you stare off into space and it blinks back at you. When the creature under your bed calls some friends over for dinner. When your very sanity is hanging by a thread, there is one place you can turn to.
Lovecraft Detective Agency, if you're sane enough to ask, you probably don't need our help.
That cannot be a successful business slogan.
Agent Worthington, always a pleasure to hear your voice.
You may wish to double-check your clock, Morty.
I'm not sure I follow you, but I'm seeing 8:58.
And, therefore...
Ah, yes, I see. Janet! It's a pleasure to hear from you.
Better.
Forgive me, your insistence not to mix business with pleasure borders on the obsessive.
It's actually my insistence not to mix pleasure with business, and I believe the clock just changed to 8:59.
I see alacrity is called for. Shall I whisper sweet nothings in your ear?
Perhaps a rain check when you have time to properly devote to that.
Then allow me to just squeak in the fact that you're a beautiful woman with a heart of gold, and I treasure every moment I get to spend with you.
Oh, I do like a man who works well under deadline, a fact I will take very special note of for the future. And now I suppose, business.
Alas the day. How may I be of assistance, Agent Worthington?
I have something of a haunted house mystery for you.
Oh, really, Agent? It's not that I never do ghosts, I'm just not very good with them. My specialty is...
Unknowable and unspeakable horrors, yes, I know. I'm more than acquainted with the concept, or I suppose the lack of concept. Is there really all that much call for your line of specialty?
It's rather like being an expert on nuclear explosions. The need for my expertise is a situation which doesn't arise frequently, but on the occasion that it does, accepting a substitute is simply not an option.
Fair enough. Now, about this haunted house.
Oh, if I must. But there are those who specialize much more in that aspect of the craft.
Oh, yes, I know. The house in question has been visited by 3 such experts, 2 exorcists, and a crew of rather oafish gentlemen who appeared to mistake night vision goggles for ghost hunting equipment. None of them could make heads or tails of this situation.
Oh? Yes.
And when the experts on ghosts don't know what to make of a phenomenon...
You begin to suspect ghosts are not the issue.
I do, which rather leads me to you. I'm not certain if this horror is truly unknowable, but I can say for a fact that I don't know what it is. Does this fit your criteria?
Where would you like me to be?
New Mexico. I can have you and Gladys on a flight out of Arkham Airport within 3 hours, if you like.
I will see you there. Email me the details, if you please. And at the risk of mixing the two, a pleasure doing business with you.
Clever.
Gladys, have you ever wanted to visit New Mexico?
That depends on one very important thing, Morty.
What is that, my pet?
What the heck is in New Mexico?
Danger, adventure, mystery, and the vague possibility of certain death.
I can find all that in the top drawer of your filing cabinet.
Yes, but in New Mexico, we get all of that, plus airline peanuts.
Ah, good. More vague possibilities of certain death. I'll go home and pack, shall I?
Please and thank you, my dear. Oh, and Gladys.
Yes, Morty?
It's probably a good idea if we don't even speak about the top drawer of the filing cabinet again. It might be listening. So tell me about this house, Mr. Oliver.
The house is a one-story structure that no one remembers building, and that no one can see a reason to have built in the first place. I am a very wealthy man, and I bought a large parcel of land which happens to contain the house, so it's become my headache. It's old, at least older than indoor plumbing, and probably much older than that. Beyond its age, however, it serves no purpose other than apparently leading people to their deaths.
Sorry?
There are police records dating back 30 years, They may go back further than that, but I stopped when I hit the microfiche portion of the records. Drifters, hermits, families that got lost driving through the desert, they would all end up stopping at this house, and they were dead by sunrise. Most likely suicides. If that happened twice, I would think it was a coincidence. In 30 years, it happened 43 times.
Something in the atmosphere that affected their brain chemistry? A fungus? Natural gas leak?
They ran toxicology tests on some of the victims, with no results. To be honest, I'm not all that interested in the whys and wherefores. The house is obviously a threat, and I want to destroy it. I don't care why the tiger is eating people, I just want to shoot the tiger.
What's stopping you?
That's kind of what I want to know. Some idiot got this house on the Federal Historic Buildings list, but with the help of my lawyers, that hurdle is cleared. That's the only thing that's gone my way. I've brought in bulldozers, backhoes, and anything else that seemed appropriate. Every time they get within 20 feet of the house, the engines die for no reason anyone can identify. I tried to blow it up, and the demolitions man told me something went wrong with the ignition caps. Finally, I went for a do-it-yourself approach and tried to set the darn thing on fire.
And?
It rained. In the middle of the New Mexico desert, it rained. There is a small amount of smoke damage on one wall, otherwise it is untouched.
And that's when you started bringing in the ghost experts.
No, that's when I brought in people who claim to be experts in a lot of things, none of whom could provide anything as workaday as results. I don't believe in ghosts, and I'm not a superstitious man, Mr. Lovecraft. I only called in the weirdos when conventional solutions failed. My personal opinion is nuke from orbit, but it turns out that nobody will let me do that, even on my own land.
We'll see if we can't get the same results without so much overkill, or violation of international treaties. May we go see the site?
You can stay inside the structure for 2 hours, no more, and not after sundown.
Why?
Because nobody who killed themselves was there for less than 2 hours and in broad daylight. At least that I know of. You folks stay here tonight, and I'll drive you out there tomorrow morning. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have some other business I need to attend to, and I'm sure you want to talk amongst yourselves about how crazy I must be.
That man is very blunt.
I know. It's refreshing, isn't it?
I didn't get the sense that he knew more than he was telling us.
Why would he? You don't lie to the exterminator about what kind of bugs you have.
Oh, that's an unfortunate analogy, Gladys. I hardly think you can compare my line of work with an exterminator.
I guess not. Bugs usually only have 6 legs.
I'm impressed. You've been here 20 minutes and you've already destroyed more of this place than I've managed in the 9 months I've owned it.
Well, I figured you wouldn't mind if we started with the floorboards.
And why exactly did we start with the floorboards?
Because the floor of this building emanated a substantial aura of dark energy, and since I've never heard of an evil floorboard, I'm assuming that what we're looking for is actually beneath the building.
Morty,
Yes?
have you really not seen the stairway yet?
Oh, that. Yes, that's rather on the nose, isn't it? Well, which one of us would like to go first?
Let me go get the flashlight out of my car.
Mr. Oliver, I commend you for your bravery, but I think you've missed an important point here. Whatever is down there has been causing people to commit suicide by being above it, separated by these floorboards and however much distance it takes to get to the bottom of the stairs.
So?
So what do you think will happen if you actually see it?
You're suggesting we go down there in the dark?
One at a time, and preferably wearing thick gloves. That way, if we find the object that's emanating the dark energy, we can avoid touching it with our bare skin.
Go down those stairs, fumble around in the dark until we find something, and then what?
That depends on a number of things. But my suspicion is that you'll find a roughly cylindrical object, about 6 inches long with pointy bits on one end. And if that is the case, we put it into the fire safe I brought along in the car before we bring it upstairs. Then, we take the fastest route possible to open water and drop it within.
Oh, it's that thing.
Well, I think so anyway. It's the right region for it, and no one's found it so far. Still, this is mostly guesswork. For all I know, whatever's down there is a living monstrosity.
And in that case, what good are thick gloves going to be?
None whatsoever. Still want to go first?
So you knew what we were looking for the whole time?
I suspected it's not the same thing.
And he really couldn't know this kind of thing.
Because it's unknowable and unspeakable.
Not entirely unspeakable, technically. Not in this case. It does have a name.
What is it?
As I say, it's not technically unspeakable, but for me at least, it's mostly unpronounceable. I'm not very good with ancient Aztec.
Aztec?
Supposedly. There is a legend told in my circles of a cult that grew up in the Aztec Empire. They worshipped an article of great power, though the specifics of where that article came from are sketchy.
Keeping in mind that this whole thing is a legend in the first place.
So, sketchy means no one has a clue?
You follow this quite well. In any case, the cult was mostly stamped out on account of being far too violent and bloodthirsty.
For the Aztecs?
Again, you're following this very, very well. Thing is, though, after the cult was destroyed, there's no record of what happened to the Article of Power.
New Mexico is pretty far from where the Aztecs lived, isn't it?
Just far enough to be a place you'd run to if you wanted to get away from them.
And given the details you emailed to me, it seemed a likely candidate.
I see. And we're dropping it into the ocean because...
Because when this item of power decided to go somewhere safe to hide for a few centuries, it went to a desert. I want to put it in a place it feels least safe. You have to admit, we've all felt considerably more at ease with having this thing in our midst ever since we got over open water. My hope is that least safe is close enough to dead as is no never mind. Speaking of which... Hand me the fire safe, if you please, Agent Worthington.
Here you... Whoa, Gladys! Be careful, you nearly pushed me out of the hatch.
Sorry.
And goodbye to evil Aztec object of doom. Let's head back to the mainland. I'm in the mood for tacos.
Am I interrupting?
Agent Worthington. Good to see you.
Hello, Gladys.
Hi.
I noticed you checked your watch before speaking this time. Good boy.
Only about a minute until my workday is finished.
Oh, so you can accept your check for services rendered.
Delighted. I'm always glad to see you, of course, but mailing this to me is perfectly acceptable.
Oh, it was no trouble at all. I was on my way here anyway.
Really?
Yes, there's a dashing young man who's going to buy me a drink at the end of my shift.
Oh.
Well, there will be, in about 45 seconds if that clock is right.
Did he know of this before now?
I assumed he would have figured it out when I came all this way to drop off a check.
Ah, quite right.
By the way, you haven't seen one of my earrings, have you? The little turquoise number? I haven't seen it since New Mexico.
I have not, but I can check my luggage when I get home.
Perhaps I'll do that for you.
Gladys, you'll be so kind as to lock up?
Sure thing.
Many thanks. Good night.
Good night.
Hello, little dearie. Are you hungry? Maybe you want to try this? Oh, you like that. Good. Maybe next time I can bring you the ear it came from.
You have been listening to the Lovecraft Detective Agency, produced by Seat of Our Pants players, written and directed by Dan Wenzel. Mordecai was Andrew Dell. Gladys was Liz Music. Janet was Brianna Kubi. Mr. Oliver was Rick Tennant. Music and sound effects by www.freesfx.com. Tune in next time for something even creepier.